Be warned, this video is strictly for the brave at heart. We're about to take a stroll down memory lane with 12 of the most notorious villains who've ever walked the planet. We're talking about people so bad, they've landed themselves 400-year vacations behind bars. Talk about an extended stay. These are the kind of characters the FBI would rather we all forget. Out of sight, out of mind, right? But we're diving headfirst into these dark tales, so buckle up. You've officially been warned, it's about to get wild.
Today, the search for California's Night Stalker continues.
I'm afraid for everybody, elderly, young, everybody.
In the mid-'80s, the Night Stalker was more than a man. He was a collective nightmare.
In the shadowy corners of California, a figure of pure malevolence, Ricardo Richard Ramirez, known as the Night Stalker or the Valley Killer, unleashed a chilling wave of terror beginning in April 1984. For 14 harrowing months, he haunted the California coastline until fate caught up with him in 1985. With a penchant for the macabre, Ramirez reveled in the anguish of his victims, once subjecting a terrified woman to electrocution with a live electrical cord, a cruel testament to his merciless nature. On a grim evening of March 17, 1985, he coldly targeted Maria Hernandez outside her home, firing a .22 caliber handgun at her. Miraculously, the bullet missed, and she feigned death, a desperate bid to escape his clutches. Her roommate, Dale Okazaki, drawn by the gunshot, was not so fortunate. Ramirez mercilessly shot her in the head. The bloodshed continued when, merely an hour later, he brutally ended the life of Cy Leon, Veronica Yu in Monterey Park, using the same sinister weapon. The media was whipped into a frenzy by his serial killings. Unbeknownst to Ramirez, his visage was plastered across nearly every major newspaper, marking him as public enemy number 1. On August 31, 1985, the streets of Boyle Heights became the stage for dramatic retribution. Recognizing the infamous killer, a furious mob of residents captured Ramirez and delivered their own rough justice until the police intervened, rescuing him from the very brink of death at the hands of the crowd. The final act of his nefarious saga came on September 20, 1989, when Ramirez faced the full weight of justice. Convicted of 43 heinous acts, including 13 murders and 11 sexual assaults, he was condemned to perish in the gas chamber. Ramirez's reign of terror concluded in the silence of his cell, as he succumbed to complications from lymphoma in 2013, forever sealing the dark legend of the Night Stalker.
At approximately 11:30 p.m. last night, members of the task force arrested Dale S. Hausner and Samuel John Dieteman for numerous counts of murder and aggravated assault.
In the sultry heat of Arizona, the sinister duo of Dale Hausner and Samuel Dieteman unleashed a nightmarish spree, targeting innocent bystanders and helpless animals with cold, indiscriminate gunfire. Fueled by the erratic highs of methamphetamine, their crimes painted a grim tapestry of chaos and death. Their destructive impulses were not confined to gunfire alone. Hausner and Dieteman also harbored a fiery compulsion to watch the world burn. In a brazen display of wanton destruction, they ignited blazes at 2 Walmart stores, wreaking havoc and causing nearly $10 million in damages. The reign of terror commenced with the cold-blooded murder of 20-year-old David Estrada in June 2005. Their brutality escalated chillingly when Nathaniel Schaffner valiantly attempted to shield a dog from their heartless aim, only to be mercilessly killed by the duo. Ironically, their downfall was precipitated by the reckless hubris of Dieteman, whose drunken boasts eventually led to their capture. In a bizarre twist of fate, just a week before their arrest, Hausner, cloaked in a veil of normacy, conducted an interview with former heavyweight boxing champion Mike Tyson for FightNews.com. Even as a frantic manhunt unfolded, Hausner audaciously continued to grace television screens, interviewing celebrities, all while lurking behind his facade of cruelty.
A terrorist called Unabomber is planning to blow up an airliner sometime during the next 6 days.
Targeting airlines, scientists, computers, forestry people.
Kaczynski played a deadly cat-and-mouse game with the FBI in a nationwide bombing campaign that stretched 17 years, becoming one of the Bureau's longest and most expensive investigations ever.
The tale of Theodore John Kaczynski, known infamously as the Unabomber, begins with a paradoxical blend of brilliance and madness. A mathematical prodigy, Kaczynski's intellectual journey took him to the hallowed halls of Harvard University at the tender age of 16, a testament to his exceptional mind. But behind his academic veneer lurked a growing disillusionment. Kaczynski abandoned his promising career at Berkeley, retreating in 1979 to the seclusion of a primitive wood cabin in Montana, where he would orchestrate a terrifying campaign of violence. From this remote hideout, Kaczynski masterminded a chilling series of bombings that began with an explosive package sent to Professor Buckley Crist. Suspicion led Crist to alert the police, but the bomb detonated, severely injuring the officer who dared to open the package. The Unabomber's reign of terror compelled the FBI to assemble a massive task force of 150 agents and offer a staggering $1 million bounty for his capture. The manhunt consumed over $50 million and spanned nearly 2 decades. In a dramatic turn of events, it was Kaczynski's own brother, David, who, upon seeing Theodore's sketch in the national papers, made the fatal decision to tip off the FBI. His tip led to Kaczynski's arrest on April 3, 1996, bringing an end to the haunting saga. Sentenced to 8 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole, Kaczynski's story concluded in his prison cell, where he took his own life on June 10, 2023. His life and crimes remain a dark reminder of the fine line between genius and madness.
A serial killer's rampage was exposed when the bodies of young women began turning up in shallow graves that dotted the Alaskan wilderness.
Can you imagine the terror that struck through the icy wilderness of Alaska? Robert Hansen was responsible for 31+ rapes and 17+ murders. He started as a rapist and later turned into a killer. "You can't rape a prostitute," he told the police when confronted. Hansen chose sex workers as his prey. He has gotten tired of hunting deer in his Alaskan hometown and has moved on to a sickening game. Hansen would abduct sex workers at gunpoint and fly them to his remote cabin in the woods. Then he would brutally rape the girl. Then the victim is stripped naked, sometimes blindfolded, and set free in the woods. After a brief head start, Hansen would hunt the helpless girl. He shot his victims with a .223 caliber weapon and marked the sites on a map. When the police raided his house, they found the map and the .223 caliber Mini-14 rifle used in the gruesome murders. The court sentenced him to 461 years in prison.
The bailiff surrounded Osuna and left little to see. Through a short glimpse of him, we noticed he appeared frail and had grown his hair, which now hangs to the middle of his back.
Can you believe the chilling tale of Jaime Osuna, the man with 1,000 faces and a necklace of horrors? When captured and sent to prison, he committed a gruesome act that will send shivers down your spine. He beheaded his cellmate, Luis Romero, and crafted a macabre necklace from Romero's body parts. Are you shocked? Brace yourself. There's more to this dark saga. When Osuna was asked why he preferred prison over the county jail, his cold response was just the tip of the iceberg. Born on March 7, 1988 in Bakersfield, California, Osuna's life was a troubled journey marked by continual arrests for assault and battery. A confessed Satanist, he transformed his visage into a living canvas of eerie tattoos, reflecting the darkness within. His sinister path continued as he was convicted for the murder of Yvette Pena, a 36-year-old woman, at a Bakersfield motel. Now, Jaime Osuna lurks behind the bars of Kings County Jail.
A 68-year-old Russian woman was arrested this week in St. Petersburg, suspected of killing and then dismembering a pensioner neighbor several days before.
Beneath the guise of a seemingly innocuous grandmother lurks a figure shrouded in chilling darkness. Meet Tamara Samsonova, born on April 25, 1947, and infamously dubbed the Granny Ripper or Baby Yaga. Her story unfolds on the streets you walk every day, where an ordinary encounter could spiral into a tale of horror. The year 2000 marked a mysterious vanishing act when her husband disappeared without a trace. In the eerie silence of his absence, Samsonova transformed her home into a boarding house of horrors. A deadly dispute with a 44-year-old tenant escalated to a gruesome finale as she cold-bloodedly killed and dismembered him. But the terror did not end there. In 2015, she crossed paths with Valentina Olenova, who naively welcomed Baby Yaga into her home. A series of escalating quarrels led to a sinister betrayal. Fueled by vengeance, Samsonova poisoned Olenova with a lethal dose of phenazepam, concealed within her favorite dish, Olivier salad. On July 23rd, the night air was sliced by the grim sound of sawing as she dismembered Olenova's body. The dismembered remains, ensconced in a shower curtain, were discovered near a tranquil pond on July 26th sending shivers down the spine of the local community. The sinister trail of breadcrumbs led to Samsonova's arrest. In her possession, a diary detailed her ghastly acts with bone-chilling precision. As she faced psychiatric evaluation in Kazan, the authorities suspect her dark reach may extend to 14 murders. What lurks behind the facade of the harmless granny? The chilling tale continues.
Snarky Media's own Ian Lee Bordeaux lives in the area, and his video surveillance system captured the Little Rock slasher roaming the neighborhood a few nights later.
Beware, this 6-foot-tall killer is still at large. The police never found him. He would attack random people with a knife, usually in the early morning hours, from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. The Little Rock serial stabbings occurred from 2020 to 2021 in Little Rock, Arkansas. 4 people were stabbed and 3 of them died. The police later revealed that a single suspect, a possible serial killer, was linked to the incidents. Authorities offered a reward of $20,000 for information on the suspect, but he had vanished into thin air. If you live in Little Rock, be aware.
There may be victims out there that we have no clue of.
The BTK strangler hides in women's bedroom closets.
He kills women, men, small children. Nobody is safe. Nobody.
In the quiet streets of Park City, Kansas, a shadow loomed large and menacing. Dennis Rader, the man who would become infamously known as the BTK killer, short for bind, torture, kill, embarked on a chilling campaign of terror that began on the cold morning of January 15, 1974. The Otero family fell victim to his cruel initiation. 4 souls mercilessly bound and strangled within the supposed safety of their home. Rader's sinister pattern targeted primarily women, binding them with rope before suffocating them with plastic bags in a grotesque ritual of control and domination. His depravity knew no bounds. He collected personal items from his victims, such as their underwear, as morbid trophies of his conquests. Amidst his murderous spree, Rader's macabre desires saw him donning his victims' underwear, capturing these moments in perverse self-portraits during the chilling lulls between his attacks. His life in the shadows took an even more twisted turn as he profited from his own infamy. Astoundingly, he secured employment with ADT Security Services, installing CCTV systems until 1988 for those haunted by the very fear he embodied. Rader's reign of terror concluded with his arrest in February 2005, culminating in a life sentence of 175 years behind bars. This dark saga of deceit and brutality marked a grotesque chapter in the annals of American criminal history, leaving an indelible scar on the community he once terrorized.
30 years ago, Milwaukee woke up to news Jeffrey Dahmer was responsible for killing more than a dozen people. The majority of those murders happened in an apartment near the Marquette campus.
Jeffrey Dahmer kept the body parts of his victims as souvenirs and engaged in sex acts with their bodies. His nicknames, the Milwaukee Cannibal and the Milwaukee Monster, reflect his heinous crimes. During his reign of terror, Dahmer took the lives of 17 men and boys between 1978 and 1991. Over a decade, Dahmer continued his killing spree, carefully selecting his victims, mostly black men, at gay bars, malls, and bus stops. He took them home with promises of money or sex and drugged them before strangling them to death. Dahmer would engage in sex acts with the corpses before dismembering them for disposal. He took photos of his victims at various stages of the murder process to relive the experience. Can you imagine anything more sickening than that? He was sentenced to 16 life terms, but a fellow prisoner killed him in 1994.
In Hanover, Germany, the police had just arrested the man they thought was responsible for a series of murders involving young men. But as they started questioning Fritz Haarmann, they had no idea just how dark a trail they were about to go down.
The Butcher of Hanover took the concept of love bite to the next level. You might want to sit down before watching the rest. Friedrich Heinrich Karl Fritz Haarmann sexually assaulted, murdered, and dismembered at least 24 young boys during his killing spree. Fritz would invite young boys to his house and offer food and drinks. He would then bite into the victim's Adam's apple while strangling the victim. He called this a love bite. He bit through the victim's Adam's apple and trachea. Fritz would then dismember the victim and throw parts into the Line River. In May 1924, a group of kids found a human skull in the Line River bank. A further search led to Haarmann's arrest on June 24, 1924. He later confessed to his crimes and the process of dismembering, which sounded more like a horror movie. Haarmann was beheaded on April 15, 1925.
Seattle, Washington, November the 5th, 2003. The King County Superior Court. In front of a packed room, 54-year-old killer Gary Ridgeway pleaded guilty to 48 counts of aggravated murder.
The Green River Killer is suspected in murdering 71 teenage girls and women. He didn't just kill them, he would later have sex with the victims' dead bodies. Gary Leon Ridgeway is one person you want to keep away from. He targeted young women and sex workers, often strangling and dumping their bodies in the forest. He would later return to their dead bodies to have sex with them. Gary had an insatiable sexual desire. He was in the military, and later in his married life, Gary frequently had sex with prostitutes. After the killings, he would have sex with his wife in places where he hid the bodies of his victims. He confessed to strangling his victims while having sex in his truck or home. Ridgeway was arrested on November 30, 2001 on suspicion of murders he had committed almost 20 years ago. King County Superior Court Judge Richard Jones sentenced Ridgeway to 48 life sentences without parole and added a further 480 years for tampering with evidence.
When that was pointed out by investigators, they reviewed satellite images from the area where the burial site was discovered. They all went missing between 2001 and 2005.
West Mesa bone collector buried 11 young women in a dry riverbank in West Mesa, New Mexico. They were aged 15 to 32, and it is believed to be the work of a sex trafficking ring. While there were few suspects, the police are yet to catch the killers. Most of the girls were Hispanic, and many were involved in sex work and drugs. On February 2, 2009, a woman walking a dog found a human bone on the West Mesa. Investigations unearthed the remains of 11 women and girls and a fetus buried in the area. Who was responsible for the death of 11 girls in the desert? It is still a mystery. Did it occur to you that the FBI would want you to forget about this video too?